altcoin season is upon us. I know, I said it. We haven't said it for 4 years, and lots of people have been moonboying it and calling it. But there's this one indicator that actually has shown us over the last 3 times that we've had altcoin season actually follow through. Let's look at the markets over here. Russell 2000 making all-time highs. SPX making all-time highs. Brent has been making lower lows. All of this is signaling to something that the market is preparing for a move up, and risk assets are showing strength more than ever. So is this the first time that we are possibly seeing risk assets having higher highs and we actually begin the bull market that we've been waiting for? Or is this just another local high before we make our move downwards? Find out on this episode. Hello everyone, and welcome back to Strategic Markets, your place for technical and fundamental analysis all at once. Now, into our end of week session, we are firstly starting off with, well, the White House basically saying that Iran has just announced that the Strait of Iran is fully open and ready for full passage. That's the Strait, but it's fully open. And that was this Friday, guys. But what happened on Saturday? Well, Iran officially closes the Strait of Hormuz again after the US says it ended its blockade. So that was the blockade of the ports in the Strait of Hormuz. US said that they're gonna keep that particularly blocked because they didn't want, and they wanted further security on the Strait of Hormuz, and Iran was not happy with that, so they said no, we're gonna attack ships again because they do not want American intervention in the Strait of Hormuz. And to this person's point on X, this world is an absolute joke, and people are making a lot of money with insider trades over this particular weeks. Yeah, it is a really sad time to be in this particular space because there is just so much market manipulation happening. On another aspect, the US exported a record 12.7 million barrels of oil per day last week. And you can see in this particular chart, this has been going up, guys, which means for the US, this is an amazing payday because they're actually exporting more and more oil to other countries while the Strait of Hormuz stays closed. And we actually covered that in our last video as well. So that's happening. Now, what is that looking for the price of oil? Well, if I put this over here, oil has been looking bearish, I'm not going to lie. Now, very recently, we actually lost support on the 100-day SMA as well. We are still basically breaking down from this ascending wedge pattern, and we are making some lower lows consistently. To me, personally speaking, from a technical perspective, this is looking bearish. If you look at the RSI as well, we just have been trending straight downwards. We haven't had a breakout upwards on the RSI as well. The MACD has been crossed over bearishly as well. So don't really have many comments on this. The SPX, or the S&P 500 on the other hand, wow, like this is just a V-shaped recovery over here. And we have basically taken 5 to 7 weeks worth of down action. We've just taken that out in 3 weeks worth of upwards action. And not only have we taken out, but we have set all-time highs, guys. But the interesting thing for me is that every time Trump speaks these particular aspects, he speaks on Friday and pumps the market. And then come the weekend is where the bad news happens. And then again, on Monday, he pumps the market back up in news as well. So I'm not really sure how this particularly looks like because, what might happen in the next couple of hours as the market open for oil and whatnot might be troublesome and tiresome. But it is said that President Trump will give an important speech at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So in that particular case, they are expecting him to announce a final peace deal with Iran that includes the reopening of the strait. If that's true, the markets are just going to explode. But we just have to wait for that to play out because obviously we don't know what's happening in those particular markets there. Another interesting aspect that we've been following within this particular thing is the Russell 2000 chart. The Russell 2000 basically looks at small cap businesses and their particular stock action in a combined index fund. And if you see over here, this has also over the last 3 weeks made an all-time high. So this one actually has been doing reasonably very well. Now, an interesting aspect as to why we brought this session today with saying the words altcoin season is the Russell 2000 has always been a very strong indicator to let us know when the market looks at upper swings for even altcoins. Now, why is that? Because if you see over here, in 2016, the Russell 2000 made an all-time high. Another interesting aspect is we had an all-time high in 2021 on the Russell. Again, all season occurred from 2020 to 2021. Now, again, very recently, we have made this basically all the start of 2026 as an all-time high, and we are moving upwards again. We can see over here that the crypto total market cap for altcoins, excluding the top 10 altcoins, is now also starting to show a bottoming out signal towards making its move up. So on that, first thing we should really just look at over here is Bitcoin's chart. In terms of crypto, Bitcoin is the king of that. And right now we've been tracking this particular bearish flag pattern. Now the bearish flag pattern over here, if you see, has been just ranging sideways. We actually broke up above the local high at 75K, tested 78, have come down for support over here at 75K, 74K again. Now, if we hold this particular thing and we have a retest and then a move up, that's exactly what I'm going to love. And if tomorrow's news comes out great, a final peace deal, whatever, then yes, we actually have some headwards upwards. But if it doesn't, and if they say the war continues on for a very long time, or they're attacking or something or the other, guys, don't be shocked that this particular market goes down from here. Like, I love this. It looks strong. And I've talked about the fact that, on the weekly chart, the MACD has also flipped bullish. The MACD has just flipped bullish. And I can support that particular narrative. But until we just had that perfect confirmation and we get out of this particular daily bearish flag pattern towards the upside, nothing is confirmed yet. So in that particular case, we can only ever be hopeful in that particular regard. On another aspect, President Trump is trying to get the Senate to pass the Clarity Act. If you guys haven't done any research on the Clarity Act or are a bit uncertain on it, Clarity Act is basically a legislation that we want passed through the Senate and the House in America, which basically gives cryptocurrencies a legal status, so that in terms of law or in terms of litigation, we can basically be able to argue in court a certain type of a security or something like that, or if people get scammed or something like that, that they have rights to be able to fight the other person in court for being scammed, as compared to it just being magic internet currency where people are losing money online. So it just gives it some legal status to be able to have in litigation. And also for investment practices and for banks and all these other committees to be involved in yields and decentralized finance. So this is a very big deal. And getting this passed through would make a lot of bigger investors want to get involved in the market as well. That is what the Clarity Act is. Last point that I want to make today, as we talk about all season and possible strength, we have been in this particular downwards trend in this market for about 47 to 51 months. Guys, this chart is on the monthly chart, and we have been trending downwards consistently until very recently, where we broke out. And that's about 4.3 years that we have been in a downtrend, and we've just recently broken out of it. And also in this little green arrow, we've actually flipped bullish on the MACD. We had this in the past, but it was a fake out. But this is actually a definitive breakout over here. So I'm actually pretty certain that this could be a strong move. We have broken out of the downward trend resistance. We've touched for support, and now we could possibly have a move up. So if this others chart, meaning everything excluding Bitcoin and the top 10 coins, which is basically altcoins being your more risk bet in crypto, if this is having a breakout and if this is showing strength, then guys, I definitely have hope that we possibly have much more space for room up. But on that, I'll pass it over to Steve and get his analysis on it.
Thank you very much for that, Yash. Great as always, mate. In terms of Bitcoin, let's start with that one, I reckon. You're very, very bullish in the overall grand scheme of things, and I really do appreciate that. In terms of Bitcoin, you are correct in relation to saying that we've actually breached above previous resistance line areas, absolutely, and we've actually come up and come back to that former resistance area as a support line. Where we go from here is going to be the really, really interesting point. Now, this speech that Donald Trump is going to be having shortly, as you said, I think is going to be really, really important. Are we going to bounce off this support area, or are we going to start sinking? That, I think, is going to be really, really fascinating. At the moment, if we take a look over here on the left-hand side with the Ichimoku curve, it looks pretty good, okay? So it looks as though things are going to be fairly supportive at this moment. The thing that concerns me, though, is Ethereum. The reason why I say that is we had this test, but it looks like a false breakout at this point. And the reason why I say that is we've had this test of the support resistance line back from January of 2022. It hasn't looked good, though. It peaked its head up above this and then fell right beneath the major 4-hour support resistance line back from 16th of March. And hasn't looked great. The Ichimoku curve really does not look good at all. You can see that it's a bit like a heart attack arrhythmia on the left-hand side over here. It's come through, attacked, and basically gone up, down, up, down, up, down all over the place, and really has struggled to get up and anywhere around breaking out above this and staying up above it. Ethereum, which we've been talking about over the last few weeks, has been the pillar of strength out of all of the coins. And really, like you're saying, in terms of the altcoin season, is the driver of altcoins. We would really want to be seeing a lot more strength coming through from here. We're not seeing that. It's not actually staying above this Tenkan Sen either, being this blue line over here. I'd personally be wanting to see a lot more strength coming through from Ethereum. Now, put it this way. When it comes to this speech that Trump's coming through with shortly, this bounces up above all of these areas here. Okay, hey, off for the races. That's the way I would personally be seeing it. But we really need to be clearing all of this area up here. So I'd love to share the enthusiasm, but at this point, it needs to prove itself. That's the way I personally see it. But obviously, in terms of the way things have been going from in relation to the indices, look, that is an absolutely great success story. With all of those aspects there going on with the Russell, with the SPY, with the Qs. You've got 3 of them going in absolutely great fashion. The only problem I can see with all of that, though, well, actually, I can see 2 problems. Sorry to be a bit of a downer on all of this. I can see 2 problems. Firstly, let's take a look at the positives. You've got the Russell, you've got the SPY, and you've got the Nasdaq. All 3 of those, great positive week that we've been seeing. So there's your positives. The potential negative. You'll be wanting to see all of these forming higher highs in terms of all-time highs. The Dow itself is not doing that. Okay? That has not formed an all-time high in terms of the Dow. If all 4 of them were forming all-time highs, then you've got Dow theory confirmed. You haven't got that with the Dow not forming an all-time high. So that's one potential negative. The second potential negative out of all of these is if you take a look at, say, the Russell, the SPY, and the Nasdaq, look at how far away they are from the short-term moving averages. Really far. The overextension there could potentially be indicating that we are exceptionally far away from all of this. And if that's the case in terms of being so far away, that could be potentially meaning that we might have a reversion back to the mean in terms of a pullback. So we have that possibility occurring there in that way in terms of a potential pullback, and who knows how people or the markets react in relation to the Trump speech that's about to come along. That could be a potential downer. Overall, as another potential downer in terms of the whole circumstance as well, you were actually alluding to that in terms of your discussion about Brent Crude. You were mentioning a bounce off, what was it, the 100-day moving average? Was that right? Okay. I can also mention that the 50-day moving average as well is another one that's being bounced off. And on top of that as well, the VWAP. Very interesting. Okay. So in terms of things there, we have potential bounces off all of those, as well as a bounce off the cloud. That could be another aspect that might be another bounce that's going on in terms of the Ichimoku. So we might have a bounce going off there, even though we have closed firmly below the 4-hour support resistance line when it comes to Brent crude. USO also still remaining fairly stubbornly high in the grand scheme of things, but also could be potentially bouncing off the VWAP there as well as the rising 50-day moving average there too. So there's a lot of factors going on, as we like to always say here as well too. So there's a couple of things that are going on here. The VIX is another positive factor in terms of the market. Look where it is. It's fallen below a heck of a lot of moving averages. A heck of a lot. The short-term moving averages as well as all of the long-term moving averages. So in that aspect, we've got really, really low volatility. Massively low volatility. So volatility, fear, all of those kind of things is well out of the market. On top of that as well, when we take a look at the US dollar itself has really fallen through the floor. Fell through that former resistance, which is now support, and that's now acting as a resistance area when we really think of things as well. So overall there, we've really, really come down. But interestingly enough, this could actually be acting as a bit of a support area now, because look at that wick. It actually could have bounced right off that area there too. So whether or not we may actually get a rebound in the dollar in the short term as well, it all hinges on these potential talks or this potential speech that Trump is going to have shortly. The bonds, if we want to have a look at the bonds as well, that could actually still be bouncing off the support. Isn't it interesting? We've had such a huge rise in all of the indices over this past week, and the bonds have done nothing this week. Nothing. It's flatlined. It's done absolutely nothing at all. It's just been testing this support level overall here. Absolutely nothing. And the yields, in terms of the interest rates, basically just sitting there doing nothing at all. If anything, they're probably just coming down just a fraction this week underneath these short-term moving averages. But why have the yields really done nothing? Because basically they're supported by all of these long-term moving averages. Fascinating, hey? The other area that we do look at continually here as well is gold and silver. Now, this is really, really fascinating when you look at things as well, because when we look at gold, slow, steady creeping up at this point in time. Okay, short-term moving averages. It's tracking along with that. It's now actually trading above the VWAP. Look at that green line right there. So it's up there. It could be being constrained by the 50-day moving average, being that blue line. But your Ichimoku is rising. Higher highs, higher lows on that lagging indicator. Interesting. Being supported also by the Tenkan Sen. So it looks like gold is strengthening. Silver, how about that? Let's have a look at silver. Same deal. Silver's strengthening. Okay? Still below the VWAP, interestingly enough, but silver is strengthening. It's being supported by the 100-day moving average right over there with that white line. It's being supported by the short-term moving averages, being the yellow and the cyan lines. It's now being supported by the 50-day moving average as well. So all of these support areas being supported by the lagging indicator on the Ichimoku as well. There's a lot of support coming in for silver now. Silver was really weak for quite some time, ever since that 30% drop down that actually happened well back over here. It's really, really been quite weak for quite some time and was really relatively weak compared to gold for a while there as well, until it found some support off that 150-day moving average being that orange line. So now we're getting a bit of support here, but these are defensive. Gold and silver are defensive. Is this trying to tell us a story in relation to how all the markets are going? Potentially. That literally covers all of the instruments that we take a look at overall. And interestingly enough, we were looking at the IGV recently in terms of the software sector, thinking that was really, really weak, but that actually strengthened quite a lot over the past week. A lot of things are changing, but will it continue and maintain itself? That's the big thing, especially with a lot of these indices. We take a look back at the Russell and all of those being representative, a lot of these indices being overstretched from these short-term moving averages. So with that, there's a lot of things moving around. A lot. A lot is really, really driven by speeches and media. So definitely keep an eye on exactly where the levels are basically going with everything that you're trading, without a doubt. And if things are not actually going in the favor of where you actually are in terms of stop losses or targets or anything along those lines there, you need to know exactly where you step in and where you step out with every single trade that's going on. Know your risk levels, know your risk tolerance, and then being able to actually work with those areas to be able to know exactly where you are and where you're positioned and what you can tolerate at any time in relation to any of your positions that you actually have open and where you wish to close them at any stage. With that, mate, I'll pass it right back across to yourself.
Thank you, Steve. Look, guys, it's been a fairly volatile week, and it's not been easy knowing when a war starts, when a war ends, seeing so many indicators flash all-time highs, and then still things like crypto lagging behind. But it looks like we're painting towards a certain picture. Whether the structure holds and we actually begin towards a bit more of a risk-on bull market, I'm definitely hopeful, but we still need a bit more confirmation before we can actually
Mm.
confirm anything on that. So, with that being said, thanks for coming into our session today. Please drop us a like if you enjoyed what we had to share. If you think there's anything we could do differently or better, or even something that you enjoyed, please be able to drop a comment as well. Otherwise, we'd really appreciate your ongoing support with a subscribe. It really helps the channel. But all in all, thank you for that, and we will see you for the next session.